So this might be one of the craziest builds I've ever seen. And Caleb, man, dude, thanks for showing me around it. So walk me through what you've done to this Defender.
Yeah, so this was the cheapest left-hand drive, rust-free, Defender I'd ever seen. And we started with new chassis, we call them flat packs, chassis, axles, new suspension, and then we did a Ford EcoBoost conversion on it.
So we got to start with this, because this is wild, especially when you see the shifter on the inside. Why EcoBoost?
Well, it just fits the best. The packaging, it's starting to develop a real following as an excellent swap motor. This is from Ford Performance, so it's not the normal EcoBoost you find in a Mustang or a Ranger, but it's very similar performance-wise. And it fits beautifully, it drives beautifully, it's got incredible low-end torque and power. You can work on the thing. It's not an LS where you get horrible fuel economy and you can't fix anything because it's stuffed in there. I mean, it's tiny in the engine bay.
Yeah.
You get tremendous fuel economy. The throttle response is fantastic. And the main reason is that the last years of the original Defender, right, was under Ford ownership. So the EcoBoost that we're using is a sister motor to the Puma, which I think is a Duratec or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of stuff that bolts up and it just works. It's just a great package for the Land Rover and it's just the right amount of power, you know?
So what's crazy about this is Ford actually sells this unit as a crate engine, right?
Yeah.
With the transmission. So if someone had like a crashed Mustang, you couldn't do this with that engine, is that correct?
Yeah, our partners that are working with us have developed the software, the standalone ECU, that we tie it all into the Land Rover. I know a couple people have tried to do it with crashed vehicles, like they do with the LSs, they're all coming out of the junkyard.
Yeah.
And you spend just as much money on an LS conversion, but you're getting a junkyard motor. Well, this is a new crate motor, new transmission from Ford Performance, comes with a warranty. Take it to your Ford dealership to get it worked on,
So, I mean, if this wasn't impressive enough, we got to talk about like the stuff that's really impressive. For example, power steering, right? You don't think about the little things, but what's the power steering on this?
So I actually am using a Volvo power steering pump, which apparently is big in the swap community.
Okay.
And you buy it online for $280 or something like that, and electric power steering. The EcoBoost environment's mostly electric. It's making about 15 volts. So electric power steering, it's got a little bit of a whine, but you don't hear it once the motor's running. You only, if you're in position 2 and not driving the truck, you hear the power steering pump whine.
What about air conditioning?
There are definitely kits to fit air conditioning. I have chosen not to, which is a decision I've been regretting this week. But let's be honest here. Like all Land Rover air conditioning does is get rid of knee space.
Yeah.
And not much else. It's a pretty underwhelming. So I'm thinking in the long run, maybe I'll add like a center console AC unit, and maybe you do captain chairs in the back and a second AC in the like a cubby box in the middle seats.
Dude, I love it.
But we needed to make it run and drive and perform and handle and all that first, and we'll get to creature comforts later. But actually, it drives very much like a modern vehicle. You're using the first centimeter of the accelerator pedal and always going the speed you want, whether it's 35 on a local dirt road or 85 down the highway. I mean, it's just fantastic. And driving across the country was just a treat compared to the 300 TDI,
right,
where you're foot to the floor for 15 hours feeling like you're just abusing your Land Rover. This, you're just loping along, hardly touching the accelerator pedal.
And speaking of that, Kev, do you mind if I show on the inside?
Yeah, please.
Because this is, I think my favorite part of the swap is the EcoBoost 10-speed.
If you see the other side, there's the tap shift. We'll go around the other side.
No way. Let's see.
Been all over the world.
So
dude.
off-roading, I just hit the down arrow, and I was doing most of the day in second gear.
Yeah.
But drop down to first at times, and I've never wheeled an auto before, and it was just a fantastic experience. I'm just really, because I've always had manual Land Rovers, but pretty cool wheeling an auto.
So 10-speed,
Yeah.
which is nuts. Does this bolt up to the transfer case and do the drive shafts work? How does that happen?
There's an adapter, so the engine and transmission were made to be together.
Yeah.
And there's an adapter between the transmission and the transfer case. Genuine Land Rover transfer case, but I'm using an Ashcroft with a 1.0 that's like their high performance, because when you put more horsepower behind it, you want to be able to lope along at 85 miles an hour and not be wound out at 85.
Yeah.
So the 1.0 gearing is beautiful, and then
You still have enough low end and low range?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
But my friend and coworker Zach, he put an underdrive in his, which is kind of a crazy cool idea.
Yeah.
So like he likes to, get out of it while it's walking at a quarter mile an hour across the parking lot. But he's got the 6-speed in his.
And instrumentation, like were you able to get the tach to work and the speedometer?
Okay, so these are VDO gauges, which has been sort of my pet project for a while.
Yeah.
We can put.
Wait, hang on, Caleb. Is it gonna go doo-doo-doo? Does it do the 4 chime?
No.
Thank God. Oh, dude, look at that.
So yeah, this is my pet project. We took VDO single view gauges, which are modern little computers that you can hook up to the VDO computer and change all the characteristics about them.
Wow.
And so they're sealed gauges with LEDs. You can change the color, you can change the brightness, and there's no wire going down to your transfer case. It's a sender, a Hall effect sender, and you can just program it to your car, right? You pull up a GPS app, drive exactly a mile, and then it knows what speed you're going because it's counted the pulses per mile. We've mapped the fuel gauge to a Land Rover sender, so you don't have to change your fuel sender, you just plug it right in. So we built it sort of modular, so if you do the speedo first, it's plug and play to add the other 3 gauges, your fuel, water temp, and then the voltsmeter. For this truck, we've done a matched sender that's like a 2-wire sender, floating ground sender, so you supply the ground to it, whatever, that's on the coolant rail rather than, we could tie into the CAN bus with these. They're also CAN bus gauges,
yeah.
So you can go in and configure them to work with CAN bus, but I sort of wanted redundancy from like a physical temp sender,
yeah,
that is to the gauge.
Now, is there any kind of like body control module on these old Defenders you have to work with, or is it all contained within the...
Let me show you what I have going on here.
Yeah, let's see.
So I used a 300 TDI wiring harness, just the most simple, basic. I sold my TD5 wiring harness and the computers with the TD5 I pulled out of it, like the whole drivetrain, I sold that all off.
Yeah.
So I just use a basic Land Rover wiring harness, and then all of the stuff you need for the swap comes as its own harness. And you can see here I've sort of integrated the 2 harnesses together.
Oh, cool,
and my
dude.
ECU is hiding under here. We made this enclosure. A lot of people just stick the ECU vertical, but I didn't want water getting into those plugs. So it's like a little garage door back here that protects all the wires. And because, a bunch of water, if you're in like a torrential downpour, water will be coming in off the hood, and here it hits and rolls and it can't get into any of your wiring. So we've sort of tucked it all up and hit it. And then your fuses and relays are in here behind our custom air cleaner bracket.
Unreal.
This is a 300 TDI air cleaner.
So, we need to clarify, Caleb is with Rover's North, certainly one of the premier Land Rover suppliers in the US. And is this like a kit you guys are supplying? How are you involved with this?
Yeah, so our partners at Rover Repower developed it and asked us to be their distributor, because there's just a tremendous amount between like the base kit and then making something that you can sell to people that can be installed and understood, with all the different variants and all of the different options. It's an incredibly complicated task. So we've installed 2 of these now. We're looking forward to starting our 3rd soon. But the idea is that we're gonna supply a variety of different kits, from like a builder kit, which is engine and adapter plates and wiring harness and ECU and just the bare bone stuff. And then all the way up to like complete, tear out everything under the hood except for your heater box and your brake master and your steering box, but literally everything else, we're gonna have that kit, So there's just a tremendous amount of fuel lines, cooling lines, senders, radiator,
right.
And with these motors, the limiting factor is the cooling, right?
Yeah.
So you can get a $600 Amazon cooler in there and it'll run great around town, but if you try to tow with it or take it over a mountain pass, your temps will creep up. So it really pays to put the time into, and this is just a prototype cowl we put on for this trip so that when we're wheeling, we don't have the temps creep up.
So Caleb, I'm not gonna hold you to it because it's still early days, but in terms of price, similar or more than like an LS swap?
Similar, maybe a little less, but you're getting a new engine, new transmission that's run by one ECU. There's no conversions happening. The tune on the 10-speed auto is beautiful. It just drives beautifully. You don't have to deal with overheating issues. You can work on the thing. You get way better fuel economy. it's just a better conversion in my mind, but I get that the LS is tried and true American V8, you know, people love it, I get it.
So from my relatively limited knowledge, I know people typically spend like 50 to 80K on like a swap for an LS if you just have it done at a shop. Similar, you think, for an EcoBoost?
There's a shop that we're working with, our partner Wolf Classics.
Yeah.
I don't want to put numbers in their mouth, but I understand that if you bring them a truck, about 80 grand is what it takes to totally change your drivetrain over and all the labor for it. I think on your third or fourth one, you could probably do it in 100 hours. You know, I think reasonably most good shops, 150, 200 hours for your first one.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit of work.
It's a big
You're
project.
tearing everything in the hood out and replacing everything.
You're putting a Mustang engine in a Defender. Well, Caleb, last thing I'm going to ask. Can you just do like a take me around the block really quick?
Sure.
Do you mind?
Yeah.
You don't have to go far.
Let me turn some lights off.
I just need to hear it.
So I've put a lot of work into the exhaust, right? You wouldn't think it, but little four bangers are really noisy. When I first did this, I used our Performance V8 exhaust because I figured I wanted to flow.
Yeah.
You can hear me from 1.5 miles away. They said it sounded just like a Focus RS. It was terrible. So then I cut off the resonator and put a bigger resonator on with a Venturion, which is like a little constriction where it goes from 2.5 inches to 2.25 and back, little donut. And then I went from an 18 to 24-inch muffler can, and then I welded a Venturi in front of the muffler, and now it's really quiet, and when you're driving it, you hear the induction noises. And there's a nice little burble when you get on it, but it's not obnoxious. It's like, I don't want my neighbors to get, because I live like 3.5 miles up a dirt road, and I kind of rally it. I don't want them to be like afraid I'm coming.
Call. Yeah,
like it's supposed to be quiet.
All right, well, here, I'll hop in with you. We'll just take it around the block. So, Caleb, like, obviously huge Defender community in the UK and in Europe. Is anybody doing anything similar to this overseas?
We're planning on, we have a partner in the UK we're planning on using to sell it. And the cool part is that it should be, what is it, EU5 or whatever is the latest one coming out. It should be compliant because they're going through this big thing now where all of the old diesels are no longer allowed to go into the major cities.
Oh, interesting, dude. Really interesting. So, we just got rid of our long-term Bronco 2.3, and like from the back, that startup sound and the little turbo whistle is exactly the same. Oh my god, dude! And an old Defender. That's crazy. We've got a 300 TDI at the office right now, and like just sitting at an idle and not having your teeth vibrate out of your mouth. It's crazy.
It's comfortable, you know, you're not. I also put a lot of effort into soundproofing. I've got, like, no joke, like 80 hours into soundproofing and interior and carpets and like the headliner out and the soundproofing above it and like, every inch of everything.
When you put 310 horsepower in Defender, like, does that expose all the other deficiencies?
Absolutely, and you really need to start paying attention to suspension and wheel and tire packages. It gets unstable. Like, I never thought about it, but you get into the power and then you come off the accelerator and the vehicle will get unstable because of the change in power. And so, you know, my wheels and tires that will be fine on my 300 TDI, when you put this much power behind it, those big wide wheels with wide tires, big offset. Oh, there's a deer right there.
Whoa, good catch, dude. Dude, that's crazy. Up a mountain pass at elevation.
Yeah,
I mean,
at elevation up a mountain pass, yeah.
I can't express to you guys, like, I've driven a lot of 2.3 Broncos. This feels like a 2.3 Bronco, brand new, but you get the classic Defender look. Like, this is
You're getting thumbs up everywhere you go.
Swap.
Yeah.
I mean, and from my experience in 300 TDIs, you'd be foot to the floor doing 25 up this hill, and we're just cruising like it's nothing. And you get the turbo whistle. It's crazy.
Yeah, we're going 50 up this mountain pass right now. So that's about as fast as I'm comfortable going.
When you had it on the trail, like, did you have any drivability issues off-road?
Not at all.
Okay.
It was amazing. And I've done a little bit of wheeling in Maine with it, but this is sort of my first time on really big mountain passes. And I just hit the tap shift, low range, second gear, walked down all the easy stuff, and the really extreme stuff, command shift again down, tap shift again down to first gear, just walking down the big stuff. I'd never wheeled an auto before because I've always had, either a 5-speed or a 6-speed in my Defender.
Yeah.
It's just a different experience. It's cool. It's easier in a lot of ways. It's less work, less stressful. Yeah, of course.
I mean, it's like what I love about this K-Lift is like I know there's going to be people that are going to come and be like, oh, a V8's better, but they're like it's such a common swap. It's such a heavy swap in the front end, and especially now that gas is $4.50 a gallon, or we're paying $5.60 here. Like it's an expensive thing in the long run. And when you think about it, dude, like this was a vehicle designed around a 4-cylinder, being a diesel with a turbo, right? So you're kind of paying homage to that, just way better.
And it bolts up so beautifully because it's the sister to the last motor that was ever put in this vehicle, and there's such commonality between everything. It's in the family.
Yeah.
It's not a Land Rover motor, but it might as well be. I've got a Bluetooth, you can see it right here. I've got a Bluetooth
in CarPlay.
OBD2, and then it's gonna pull up all my engine transmission temperatures and what gear I'm in. So you can see you hit the tap shift and now downshift a second, and it's like totally holding our speed comfortably while we're going down the hill, and it'll hold this indefinitely until you get in the throttle again, and then it'll realize, hey, I don't need to be slowing you down anymore, and just go back to normal auto mode. It's funny because I used to hate autos. Like I grew up with like the slushy 4-speed autos that were terrible. Like the old joke, it's like, in goes the power, and then your hopes and dreams go away, and this is enjoyable. It's got a sport mode. We were in normal drive. I mean, now the shift points are higher. It holds the RPMs longer. The sport mode's fantastic.
So I do not have 1% of the mechanical knowledge you do, K-Lift, but I've talked to a lot of engineers, and like the number one thing that's challenging with modern engines is regulating temperature. They're designed to operate with such minimal differentiation.
That's absolutely a thing.
Was that a hard thing to accomplish with this?
It is, and we're still working on it. Honestly, there's our dear friend again.
Yeah.
One of the main problems that I have yet to really figure out is that it likes to run cool.
Okay.
And so we probably need to put in like some sort of flap system to like limit the radiator, but then cooling capacity is the main challenge, in that like if you don't want to be calling for a whole lot of power, if you're just driving around town, you're not doing any mountain passes, you're not doing any towing, a small radiator is fine. But if you want to use the 310 horsepower for extended periods of time, then you need a really big, powerful cooling package.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, especially, and like there's so much variation between like highway steady state, towing, you're going off-road, you're low range, there's no airflow. So I commend you guys for working so hard on this project. And K-Lift, if folks want to learn more, what's your website?
Well, we actually don't have any information online yet because it's not quite released.
Okay.
But our website is roversnorth.com.
If you're a Land Rover guy, you know of K-Lift.
Yeah, and so Wolf Classics is doing them. You can see them on Wolf Classics website.
Sweet. And
our partner Rover Repower is the one that sort of developed it with Ford Performance. It's a Ford Performance tune. It was tuned by the guy, their master tuner who does their Le Mans race cars.
Yeah.
So it's like a beautiful driving package. It's not a hacked together conversion. It's from Ford. It's just a beautiful driving setup.
You know what Ford can learn from this, which you nailed, is every version of this engine I've driven, be it Mustang or Bronco or Explorer, I mean, it's in everything now, is they always have simulated engine sound, and you've made it sound good without simulated engine sound, dude. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you, dude.
Yeah.